the chief and I will take some questions.
Henry?
Two questions. One, could you clear up any information about who was shooting at who and what was going on there? If you guys been able to figure that out yet? And then, Mayor, I mean, you talk about being here and doing this over and over again. What is the solution here? I mean, how do we stop this in Richmond?
I'll take the first question. I think you directed the second one to the mayor, but if the mayor needs me, I can step in on that one as well too. Who was shooting at who? We know that there was a group of perpetrators who began the shooting. That first group of perpetrators, we believe, are the ones who actually struck these 5 innocent victims. And there was another group on the other side that actually returned fire. At this point in time, we don't believe they actually struck anybody, but what you have is, if you've been to that area and you understand that the topography and the way that that area is set up, that there are courtyards out there, and they were shooting across those courtyards. And what you probably won't see, you may see today, is that that courtyard was also filled with kids at this time. Okay, so that is the one thing that you have to remember. Although this is this is the area in which it happened, the most precious asset that any community has was in that courtyard as well. So, and I'll let the mayor, if he needs me, I will help him with the second question if he needs me.
The question was, what are we going to do about it, or why do you think it keeps on happening? I guess that was the question, Henry. First, I just truly believe that we have to value life more. We have to value life more, particularly when it comes to our precious children as well. Think about already, this is April of 2021, how many teens have been involved in gun violence or have been victimized by gun violence in our city. That means the value of a life, even at the teenage years, the value of that life is getting lower and lower and lower. I come from a family where my grandmother always told me that life is precious. But we're finding out far too many times now that our children are even living the fullness of their life in Richmond's neighborhoods. I can tell you that yes, we are working on preventive measures, working with VCU and creating a steering committee to work on gun violence prevention, and we are glad to see that President Biden and the federal administration are taking this seriously. But at the end of the day, all of this starts with us in our own community. We have to be the ones to say this is not the culture that we will that this will be a culture that we no longer embrace. But unfortunately, and Chief has only been here for almost a year now. This has been going on for decades in Richmond. Decades. I always step back and ask, what does that say about us? What does that say about our community? It does start with us. And no one is going to come in here and swoop up. The chief is doing, I think, a great job. No one's going to swoop in here and just solve the problem just like that. I always said in the beginning when I first became mayor that I do wish that I could go home with each and every child every night. We can't do that. I do wish that the 700 Richmond police officers could go home with all of our children every night. They can't do that. They perform heroically in these streets. But they can't go home with each and every family every night. It does begin with us. And we're going to do everything we can to invest in the factors that may lead to gun violence. We're going to do that with the help of the federal government, with the help of our partners. But this all, as a community, this begins with us. So they're going to focus on their community engagement. And I also think there's an exchange that has to occur where we will focus on a community engagement, and it's our hope that our residents will come forward and believe in the police department to solve these crimes and give them the information possible so we can get these perpetrators off the street.
Alex?
Chief, a couple questions for you. Just want to clarify this exchange of gunfire. Do police believe that the other side was shooting back in self-defense? Does it look like a self-defense situation there? And then also wondering what is leading police to believe that these perpetrators were targeting a single apartment? What evidence is suggesting that?
Okay, the investigation is ongoing, so I'm not going to define or describe what I think is happening with the return fire. I'll let the detectives sort that out and release that information when needed. And why we think that a particular apartment was targeted is because one particular apartment actually received the majority of the gunfire. All right.
Alice?
Can you say if all of the victims lived in the built apartments?
I don't have that information, and I don't know if I would release that information for their own privacy and sake of giving them an opportunity to grieve.
Can you say, was the mother, the 30-year-old woman who died and her 3-year-old, was she holding her child, or were they like apart?
I am not sure at this time. The detectives would know that, but they were all grouped together. I don't know if the mother was holding the child at the time. I do know that the child was being held by somebody, one of the victims. I don't know if it was the mother or not.
Matt?
Do you guys have anyone in custody at this point, or any leads?
We have great deal. We have some good, very, very good leads, but it is our goal to make sure that we hold all who are responsible for this accountable for this.
Ron, do you have a question? Alice?
Chief, can you touch on the crash, the police cruiser crash? I understand that the officer was heading to respond to that shooting. What happened there? What caused that?
I have not looked at that report as of yet right now. I have spoken to the officer. The officer is a little bit banged up. The safety measures that we pay for in those vehicles worked, as well as the other participant in that particular accident. The safety measures worked, and then right now we can say that they're both safe, just a little banged up, and that we're grateful for that.
Alice?
You mentioned 3 guns were used. Are all 3 of those guns on the side of the
3 types of calibers were used. So we know that there was an assault rifle used. 2 handguns were used as well too. But that doesn't mean that there were only 3 guns used, 3 caliber of guns, of casings that we found out there. Okay.
Do you know if, like, how many shell casings were recovered? Like, roughly
Quite
how
a
many
few.
shots were fired?
Quite a few, and quite a few. I believe that the report is being finalized, but we would not be surprised if that the final count is not above 50. Any other questions for myself or Mayor Stoney?
All right.
Thank you.
Well, one
I
more.
have one more, sorry. What do we know about the victim's relation? Were they, any of them family, friends? Do we know anything about that?
Not at this time.
Other than the mother,
Not at this time. I don't have that information. All right.
All right,
Thank
thanks very
you.
much.
Thank you, everyone.